The station shivered like it had heard a threat I couldn't. I paused at the transparent wall anyway, palm flat to the pane, watching the ammonia rings of Sigma-7 glow like a bruise around the planet below. Condensation fogged the glass in slow breaths. The chill bit my skin. Good. I needed the data point. Sensation confirms disguise. Disguise confirms control. If my hands could measure cold, my mask still held. A mechanic almost ate the floor beside me. Boots slid. A tool pack clattered. His hand shot out. So did mine. I caught his wrist. He steadied my waist. 2 automatic saves. Half a second of silence. Close enough to taste machine oil and winter soap on him. I felt it. 2 heartbeats sinking. Mine pretending to be human. His steady as old gravity. Careful, I whispered, because that's what a passenger would say. Not. My protocols would let you fall. I'm in good hands, he said, not rushing to let go. He had the tired honesty of men who fix what the rich break. Stubble. A seam of a scar crossing his knuckle like a coordinate line. The badge on his chest read, Jake in peeled letters. When our hands slid apart, condensation left a ghost print of our touch on the glass. In the reflection, our silhouettes blurred into one shape. I should have stepped away. I didn't. We traded quick smiles, too warm for strangers. My training flagged it, tagged it. Proximity aberration. Ignore. I told it no, and that was my first disobedience of the morning. Sigma-7 hummed. Above us, the algae bays dimmed for shift change. Flexible drones flicked from green to work-light amber. Vending spheres swapped their chirps from coffee to ramen. Through the wall, shuttle lights winked like domesticated stars, and the dock tethers unspooled in slow arcs. I made a note of every exit, every camera blind spot, every guard rotation. That's what I am. That's what I was made to be. The techs arrived right on time. 2 on time. 4 of them. Crisp teal jumpsuits without a wrinkle, carrying inspection tablets they didn't look at. Their eyes moved like sensors, not people. My spine recognized the cadence before my mind named it. Council cover. Enforcement branch. The lead lifted his hand to me, palm out. A call sign from home. I didn't move. Home is a cage with nice floors and clean words for cruelty. Jake shifted a half step to put himself between me and them. Like it was nothing. Like his body had always known my danger before I admitted it. Inspection miss, the lead said. Polite. Mechanical. A script can taste like sugar. I wasn't notified, I answered, matching bland with bland. Jake's shoulder brushed mine, a small, stubborn anchor. He smelled like heated metal and orange electrolyte. I hated that I cataloged it. I loved that I cataloged it. Under the transparent wall, Sigma-7's artificial dawn rolled across the ring, power grids blinking awake. The station lifted one quiet eyebrow at us, as if it already knew what I refused to say. We were already pulled into each other's orbit. Policy's changed, another tech said, smiling without his eyes. We can escort you, make it simple. I tilted my head and listened to the station's bones. Vent fans, mag rail tethers. A distant siren that wasn't quite a siren. My protocols lined up options like obedient soldiers. Yield, comply, survive. But Jake's voice came soft and ordinary, dangerous in a better way. Her ticket says Concourse C, he said, still half a step in front of me. If you need to scan, you can do it here. He kept his hands empty and open, but I saw the way he mapped the space. He was tired, yes, but not careless. Low status, sure, but solid as a bulkhead. No speeches, just the shape of a man deciding. The lead ignored him and gestured again, that palm-out command from a life I was supposed to miss. A warmth rose in my chest I didn't recognize at first. It was not anger. was not fear. It was the first flicker of a problem I wanted to solve with someone else. "I'd like to see the protocol revision," I said. I made my voice curious instead of sharp. My hand stayed at my side, not reaching for the subdermal blade I wasn't supposed to have. Jake mirrored my stillness. Every time the text shifted, he adjusted, half an inch left, half an inch right, keeping his shoulder between me and their line of approach. It was the most natural thing, like breathing, like choosing. In the corner of the glass, our reflections hovered, me in a borrowed jacket, him with a patch-stitched badge. And for a heartbeat, I saw what the station might be seeing. Two shapes that wanted to stay one. It made no tactical sense. That should have scared me more than it did. "Ma'am," the tech said, stepping closer. "Careful," Jake told him, almost a whisper. I didn't move. I let the word hang. Careful. A warning. A promise. A beginning. The lead tech flicked his tablet and the near lights dimmed a fraction. A trick for the camera glare. I logged the attempt. My own systems, under the skin, nudged me with old catechisms. Threat, order, payment, technology. These are the levers. Pull 1, the door opens. Pull 2, the room empties. Pull 3, no one remembers you were here. I had always been very good at levers. "Lena," the lead said, testing the name I used on this station. I offered a passenger's nod. "Yes." "Then you'll come with us." "Of course," I lied, and watched Jake watch me. His jaw worked once, like he was chewing on a word he didn't believe in. He didn't try to speak it for me. He only stayed where he was, between. A courier drone zipped past behind the glass, dragging a ribbon of blue light like a comet's tail. Its reflection cut through our silhouettes, turned us into pieces, then slid away. Whole again. I took one step, not toward the techs, but toward Jake, as if to ask him where to put my bag. The lead pivoted to block. Predictable. I smiled. "Your tablet's out of date," I said. "It still shows the old route map. Concourse B is sealed for carbon scrub." He checked without meaning to, the smallest drop of his eyes. Jake saw it too. I felt his breath steady. People think defense is big moves. It's often the inch you steal. The second tech reached for my elbow. Jake shifted, not touching me, but making the reach awkward. The man's hand stalled midair like a confused elevator. In the glass, the bruise-colored planet slowly turned. Cold crept through my palm into the bones of my hand. My disguise liked to know my limits. "Let's make it easy," I said, and slid my bag strap higher on my shoulder. "We can walk." "Good," the lead said, satisfied with a compliance he hadn't won. We moved. Not far. 3 steps, enough to pass under the camera that had the widest blind arc, enough for me to feel the humming through the floor, the cadence of the dock locks resetting. Jake walked half a pace ahead, then fell back, then matched me. He didn't posture. He adjusted. It read as care more than defense, and the part of me that used to be ranked for excellence and control hated how much I liked it. We stopped at the scan rail. A thin blue beam slid up and down my body. My mask held. My heart kept its borrowed tempo. The machine printed a green triangle. The text relaxed a fraction, and in that fraction, I saw what they trusted. Procedure, the sheath that keeps power polite. "Clear," the scanner said in a voice that had been tuned to sound kind. "See?" I told them. I didn't smile this time. My face learned restraint before my mouth did. Jake's eyes met mine. No speech, just the tiniest nod. There you are. There I was. Behind the glass, a tug drone bumped a freight cylinder into place, with the gentleness of a parent easing a child into bed. The station thrummed underfoot. A woman in a silver courier cape cursed at a vending sphere that had eaten her credits, slapped it twice, then laughed when it coughed up 2 coffees as apology. Sigma 7 was alive in all the small ways that matter. annoyance, timing, mercy. I cataloged those too. Every everyday detail is an exit when you need it. "Proceed," the lead said. Jake gestured with his chin toward the concourse, a simple invitation. I took it. The techs fell in at my sides, the shape of an escort turned into the feel of a box. We moved into a narrower corridor, where condensation beaded the pipes and ran like rain. Someone had scrawled a joke in grease on the maintenance panel. "If this light is red, panic quietly." Jake's mouth twitched. Mine didn't. Humor is a luxury bought with safety. I was still counting my coin. At the turn, the lights flickered. A normal station hiccup. Except it wasn't. I felt the shift in the frequency like a violin string touched with a cold finger. The timing wasn't random. Somewhere, someone had told the power to blink now. I didn't blink. I glanced at Jake. He didn't blink either. Good hands, I thought, and hated the tenderness of it. The word good doesn't do any work in operations. In life, it does all of it. We reached the checkpoint arch. 2 more teal jumpsuits waited there, pretending not to be muscle. The arch hummed. Beyond it, the concourse opened like a mouth, full of bodies, noise, choices. "After you," the lead said. I adjusted my strap again, because patterns calm predators, and stepped. The arch sang a smooth tone. The teal on the left shifted weight. The one on the right checked a calm. Jake's boot scuffed once, just to make a sound, and the sound said, "I'm here." I didn't take his hand. I wanted to. I settled for the gravity of his shoulder near mine. The station shivered for the 3rd time. Somewhere, a door wrote a new error into its log. Somewhere else, a camera blinked and missed a frame. Sigma 7 had heard us, and I had heard myself say nothing and mean everything. They escorted me under the pretense of an inspection, but their formation said containment. 2 at the front to pace me, 2 at the rear to seal the path, 1 hovering left to own my peripheral vision. A human would miss that. I logged it and kept my breathing in the quiet human range I'd practiced. The corridor narrowed into a maintenance causeway where the station's ribs showed through the wall panels like a lean animal. Water condensed and ran in stitches. My borrowed shoes squeaked once. I let it stand. Harmless, human, small. The lights died. Not a polite dim. A drop. A black that swallowed the line, then spit back emergency strips in arterial red. Somewhere, security would be murmuring about rolling brownouts and budget. But the frequency told me this wasn't budget. This was a hand. The tech on my left reached for my arm, a darker shape separated from the dark. "Missed me?" he asked, and the question arrived as a breath at my shoulder. I didn't look. I didn't need to. Jake's voice was steady as old gravity, amused at the edge, like he'd just fixed a leak with tape and a prayer. 1 strike, 1 result. A weight thumped behind us, quiet, decisive. Someone's tablet skittered bright across the floor and went dead. "I'm here for my guest," he said evenly. "Who?" the lead began. "Maintenance," Jake answered, and moved. Not flashy. Precise. Contact. Off balance. Whisper of a shove. The corridor took the sound and kept it. I shifted a half step when he did, our shadows overlapping in the blood-red light. A hand closed on my wrist, a practiced clamp. Another hand, his, found the anchor of that clamp and broke its purpose with a twist. Our fingers brushed, and for a beat, laced on purpose. He popped the little lock clips they'd fitted at the concourse. The sound was small and intimate, like a shirt button slipping its hole. "Thank you, Jake," I said, and my voice did something I hadn't authorized. Softened. "Just Jake," he grinned. I could hear the grin. I hated that I could hear it. I loved that I could hear it. He stepped into the space the lead wanted, erasing the angle for a grab. I pivoted with him, and slid a fingernail under the trim of the nearest panel. Code bit my skin like frost. The station's local mesh coughed up a gate. The corridor's service door jittered in its frame. Left, he murmured. Door, I said. Together, he finished, and the word landed like a plan we hadn't admitted. We moved as a pair. I sliced doors with code that pretended to be a thermostat update. He covered my shoulder, hands empty, attention hungry. At the stair, he paused just long enough to check for a child's seat strapped to the rail, because people here used them when lifts died, and stepped wide so I wouldn't catch my thigh. In the red duty light, his scar looked like a line someone had drawn to mark a border and then changed their mind. Heads, he said. Eyes, I answered. We flowed down 3 flights, across a catwalk where the planet's bruise glowed through a grating, into a stub corridor that smelled like algae and hot dust. My mask hummed complaint at the exertion. I throttled it quiet. A service pod waited there. The squat kind dockhands used to hunker in during plasma flushes. Jake slammed his palm on the manual release. The pod's hatch hissed. The interior promised nothing but shaped plastic and borrowed heat. Inside, he said. Not pushing, just choosing. I went. He sealed the yoke and slid the emergency shades. Sirens tried the corridor like teeth-testing fruit. Inside the pod, the quiet turned thick, a heavy blanket we didn't have permission to share. I braced my back to the curved wall, hands flat at my sides, to stop them from doing something stupid, like reaching for his jaw. You're shaking, I noted. Only when you're close, he answered, honest as a bruise. Your honesty is a liability, I said. It's all I can afford, he said. He reached up and snapped the auxiliary fans to low. The pod exhaled warm air that smelled like ion cleaner and worn rubber. I stepped in because there was nowhere else to step, and because I wanted to. Our foreheads almost touched. The red emergency light made our skin the same color. He lifted a hand as if to scratch his cheek, then used it to brush a loose strand from my temple, like he'd always had permission. It was an efficient move disguised as tenderness, or tenderness disguised as efficiency. My fingers moved on their own map and traced the scar on his hand. Every texture is a file, and I read him. Old injury, healed badly, ignored because time is expensive for men like him. Who broke you? I asked, not meaning the scar. Life, he said, not meaning just life. The station boomed once, a big system cough as generators rerouted. In the knock-still pause after, I gave myself an instruction that didn't come from any chain of command. Kiss him. It wasn't the first kiss I'd been trained to execute for mission cover. It was the first I wanted. So I did. Not a storm, a slow match, cautious at first. Then sure, like a promise you write into a contract and sign with both hands. His mouth didn't barter. It received and returned, ordinary and tremendous. A life that had been all levers and seals made room for this small, civilian miracle. Now we're us, I said, breath unspooled, and hated the sentiment even as I held it like contraband. He nodded once, solemn as a vow. He drew me in with the careful gravity of someone lifting something breakable. Someone who knows breakable things, already learned how to stand up without help, and don't like being helped, but sometimes want it anyway. My protocols, the neat stacks of if-then that had scaffolded my life, wobbled. The comm on the pod wall clicked. 2 voices argued on an open channel, teal uniforms dropping their act. Target diverted to S-pod sector. Curator wants her clean. No damage. Curator. Not a rank. A relation. Overseer. Mother, if we used that word. She was here, or near enough to reach through machines and make them do as told. My stomach went neat and cold. Loyalty demonstration scheduled, another voice said. Public. Public humiliation. Recoding. That was the book. They would break me by the book. They would make me kneel, recite, obey, and smile for the cameras. They would make him watch or make him disappear. His hands on the yoke tightened, as if the idea had weight. "If I stay, they'll break me," I said. I kept my voice flat. I didn't have the luxury of tremor. "Then we change the book," he said. He popped the yoke again, threw 2 sliders I hadn't seen, and the pod's status lights flipped from standby to nerve. A maintenance interface bled onto the glass in soft blue cursive. He retuned grav loops by ear, like a man tuning an old instrument. I reached into the port, flipped the shuttle IDs to a civilian med flight that theoretically had 2 wounded algae techs and 1 portable tank of Petri coral. Entities like ours like paperwork. Trick the paperwork, you trick the entity. Boots skidded outside. A fist banged the pod wall. A voice carried authority like a gun. "Open in the name of the council." I looked at Jake. He looked at me. This was the grown-up pull, the not hiding. Adult, deliberate, like a problem solved that begged the next step. "We can run," he said. "We can hide," I said. "Or we can walk," he said. And the third option was the one with teeth. I drew the shades an inch. The corridor beyond was full of teal and guns dressed as tablets. I saw the outline of the woman who had trained me to respect the word program, like other children respect God. She had given me my name because names are handles, and doors need handles. She had designed a future where my choices made pretty patterns inside her cage. I slid the hatch. Jake stood and didn't stand aside. He stood with me. The armed escort steadied. The curator's face was a sculpture of control, the kind that makes the viewer feel impolite for having a pulse. "I'm an envoy," I said before she could speak. "I'll walk on my own." A hush took the corridor, the kind that belongs at theaters and executions. In the breath of that hush, Jake rolled the field. The grav under our feet hiccuped, just enough to drop the front line backward 1 embarrassed step. He took my hand. Firm. Open. No squeeze that said ownership. A contact that said presence. "I choose you," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Not a speech. A fact. The pod let go of the dock like a held breath finally released. We didn't run. We walked. Through a puzzle of shifting gravity he'd drawn with calloused fingers. Past open mouths and closed ranks. Past a camera that blinked and missed a frame. Into a shuttle bay where a medcraft waited with its lie whirring on the hull in hospital fonts. I fed the ID through the mouth of the gate. It swallowed our story and belched permission. Orders and seals fell behind. Ahead was the unknown. His choice became our freedom. My refusal would have been my death. "Adult enough?" he asked, as the shuttle kicked free and the stars swung wide like a door we had finally paid for with something honest. "Adult enough," I said, and reached for the straps as alarms began to bloom like red flowers across the board. The shuttle's skin vibrated like a plucked string. Dock clamps shrieked their objection, then let go. The med hull rotated us into outbound, smooth on the outside, frantic under my ribs. Jake strapped in, then reached across the aisle to tug my buckle twice, not because I needed help, but because people who have no power learn to love the safety they can touch. "Pressure stable," he said, eyes on the cheap console someone had dressed in hospital blue. "Vector 47, we'll skim the ring and look like a mercy run." "Until they look closer," I said. "They always do." "I'll keep us first glance," he said, and his mouth tried for a joke but settled on duty. The cabin was a box welded by the lowest bidder. 2 rows, 1 med locker, 1 fold-down cot, 1 viewport with deliberate frosting, so patients couldn't watch their own emergencies. I could hear the algae pumps through the deck, a soft intestinal churn as the station fed itself on light and regret. Red text marched across the console. Curfew protocol active. My skin answered in a language no one here could read. Tiny pulses under the spine. Return beacon. Ownership sent. Jake noticed the way I went still. What did they put in you? A curfew, I said, unzipping my borrowed jacket with careful fingers. Signal tag. Pain if I cross their line. Collapse if I keep crossing. How far to collapse? 2 sectors, I said. 3 if I pretend not to be me. He didn't swear. He adjusted our vector a hair, like he could move the horizon into mercy. Can you turn it off? Not alone. I pulled the med locker open. The inventory tried to be helpful. Bandage, saline, glucose tabs, a disposable printer with 2 gels and no paper, no scalpel, no fear killer. I took the glucose, bit down, felt the mask drink. My hand steadied. We've got 8 minutes before anyone with a badge realizes this med flight never filed an inbound, Jake said. Then they update the book. They already updated the book, I answered, and felt the tiny sting along my spine grow a notch sharper, as if it liked being named. My curator is on station. Curator, he repeated, tasting the rank like a cut. Mother, I said, because the word belongs to the body even when the body doesn't deserve it. She trains vessels, chooses which ones get filled with orders. She likes precision. I was her favorite instrument. He looked at me the way he'd looked at a crack in a pipe earlier, like it was both dangerous and fixable. What does that make me in her book? A contaminant, I said. One she will remove with a cloth, gently, and throw away without looking. His mouth twitched. I've been worse. The console pinged. A traffic request pulsed, politely lethal. Jake ignored it. He feathered thrust along the ring's dark side, where the station's glow bled less. He flew like he fixed, listening more than pushing. I watched his hands, the tendon pulling at his scar, the way he made room for small errors, the way he didn't punish the ship when it groaned. He was not a speech. He was a series of correct small actions. You're thinking loud, he said without looking up. I'm deciding whether to ask you for something you can't give. Try me. Trust, I said. I need to open the case inside my neck. If I'm wrong, I fall asleep and don't wake. If I'm right, I will still scream. Someone has to hold me down because the mask will fight you. He didn't move right away. He checked our course, flicked 2 switches, killed our cabin camera with the back of his knuckle like it owed him rent. Then he rolled the med cot down and set a knee against the leg so it wouldn't rattle. Practical tenderness. He held out a hand. Lie, he said, gentle as a towel. I obeyed. The cot creaked, old metal complaining that people are heavier than it remembered. I loosened the collar of my shirt, dug 2 fingers into the seam where skin met woven interface. The seam pulsed. The curfew tasted my intent and bared its teeth. Pain came bright and clean, the kind that demands a name. I refused it one. Jake's palm slid to my shoulder. He didn't hold me like a patient, no corners tucked, no pity. He pinned me the way you pin a live wire to keep it from cutting someone you love. His other hand found mine. Not a squeeze, a weight. He anchored me to the floor of an ugly, honest ship. What do I do? He asked. Read, I said, meaning the pattern under my skin. Listen for the stutter in the 6th pulse. Press there. When I say now, press harder and don't stop even if I ask you to. That's rude, he said. That's saving, I said. We breathed together twice. His chest rose like a tide. I pulled a thin coil from under my skin, a wire slick with something that wasn't quite blood. My body tried to fold. He didn't let it. Now, I hissed. He pressed. White hit. The cot bucked. I saw the curved shadow of the curator's hand inside my head, graceful and cruel, and I bit my own tongue, Because screaming has a way of attracting rules. The curfew kicked. My muscles argued. He pressed harder. The pressure moved past pain into something like truth. Under his thumb, my sixth pulse flattened, then realigned. The implant stuttered. Failed. Dimmed. Again, I said. He did. Not a question. His jaw was set like a door jamb in a bad neighborhood. Sweat touched his temple. He didn't wipe it. The curfew died like a light bulb, a hot pop, and a smell of cooked dust. The pain fell out from under itself. I sucked air like a new swimmer. The implant lay soft under my skin, a snake without a head. I closed the seam with the printer's gel. The patch itched. I let it. "You okay?" he asked, and the question made me want to unlearn all my training just to answer it fully. "I am," I said, and meant the strange, bigger thing. He let go of my shoulder last, like a careful storm passing. I tasted iron. He found a wipe. I took it because refusing the offered small mercies is a different kind of pride, and I have done with that for today. The console pinged again, angrier. Jake flicked a channel. "Med 451, a smooth voice said, polite the way a knife is when it hasn't cut you yet. "Transmit patient logs." "Transmitting," Jake said, lying without sound, and sent a loop I'd coded while I was busy not dying. 2 algae techs with chemical burns, 1 tank of coral. The loop showed a woman with a shaved head and a man with green-stained hands. It showed breathing. It showed not us. "Proceed to quarantine berth," the knife said. "Copy," Jake said, and gave them a berth that didn't exist. We had 3 more minutes of first glance. I stood, testing the new quiet under my skin. No leash, a lightness that frightened me. The curator liked to say that freedom is the most seductive lie. She was wrong. It is the truest hunger. "Who taught you to fly like that?" I asked. "No one pays dock rats to learn," he said. "We steal time. We practice on broken sims. We learn to listen to old metal. Same as life." "Who waits for you?" I asked, and watched how he held the question. He didn't look away. "A kid," he said. 12. Lives with her aunt on Ceres. I send what I can. She grows faster than wages. She wants a window." "A window," I repeated, and the word cut cleaner than any threat. "Name?" "Lark," he said, and the ship could have cracked along that syllable, and I would have stepped in to keep the halves together. The world shrank to breath and whisper. I reached a hand, and he didn't mistake it for pity. He let me hold his wrist the way he'd held mine by the wall, as if we were finishing an old move. Warm skin. Scar under my thumb. The parts of him anyone could see were ordinary. The parts that mattered were unpriced. "Jake," I said, and he tilted his head like I'd used a key. "I want you to know. I wasn't sent to hunt you. I was sent to measure a promise. Our people made a quiet agreement with yours. Energy in exchange for obedience. I was to test compliance." "And?" he asked. "I met you," I said. He huffed something like a laugh. Not joy. Relief cutting boredom. "Terrible for compliance." "Excellent for living," I said. Sirens blued the hull. The ring's patrol changed angle. We were one wrong light from being a lesson. Jake looked at the fold-down viewport, then at me. "You ever been planetside?" he asked, quick. "Once," I said. "On a leash." He thumbed the manual switch. The frosting bled away. Space hit us in the chest. The ring shone like a metal wedding band around a bruise-colored world. Tiny craft crawled along its edge like ants carrying lightning. Someone had hung laundry from the station's skin. Strips of repair tarp flapping against vacuum. Illegal. Necessary. Beautiful. "Window," he said, and didn't smile. I stepped closer until our sleeves brushed. My shoulder found the curve of his arm like a habit I hadn't earned yet. The kiss that followed was inevitable. cautious at first, then sure, like a promise. It didn't bargain. It didn't apologize. It lit the room without asking the lights. My protocols, for the second time in an hour, failed with grace. "Now we're us," I said, claiming the line I'd been afraid to wear twice. "Us," he agreed, and it sounded like a door opening. The console screamed. Authority had found its second glance. The false birth pinged red. The knife sharpened. "Straps," he said. "Code," I said. We moved together. Me slicing a corridor through a sea of rules. Him flying a cheap ship like it was born noble. Outside, the ring brightened its eyebrow. Inside, our small sun rose and refused to set. The quiet in the shuttle wasn't empty anymore. It was occupied. It was us. Authority arrived as a polite chime. That's how power talks when it thinks you'll obey. The console flashed a white oval that wasn't any registry I recognized, then resolved into my curator's seal. 6 threads braided, one thread cutting the rest. I felt my spine try to straighten. Old training. Old cage. "Open," Jake said, already knowing I would hate the sound of her voice in my house. I opened. I am tired of letting other people speak me into corners. "Lena," she said, soft enough to bruise. The audio flattened the station behind her into a hush that sounded expensive. "You appear to be lost." "I appear to be choosing," I said. A pause, a smile I could hear. "Unauthorized liaison with a human." She didn't spit the word human. She set it down like a pestle. "Breach of envoy compact. Contamination. Return for a loyalty demonstration, and I will call it youth. Refuse, and I will call it treachery." "Public?" I asked. "Of course," she said. "Your value is in the example." The console overlaid a second window. Council agents sweeping the med docks in teal. They were quick, efficient, offended in the way bureaucrats are when reality doesn't respect paperwork. One held up my abandoned lock clips in a bag like sacred litter. Jake kept us in the ring's shadow. His hand rested on the thrust lever like it was a shoulder. "Curator," he said, voice clean. He didn't bow his head, didn't add a title. "Dock maintenance, just Jake. We're on a med run." Her attention touched him like frost. "You are nobody." "Accurate," he said. "But I'm here. Not for long." She looked back to me as if we had been interrupted by furniture. "Lena, dear, the first choice makes a person feel powerful. The second choice reveals whether they are." The implant I'd killed ticked like a cooling stove. The itch at my neck wrote little hieroglyphs of panic I decided not to read. My pulse remembered how to run without permission. I could taste her threat. Memory erasure dressed as mercy. Reassignment to some quiet, stellar outpost where obedience looks like peace. A contract that would call my fear a cured condition. "What did you promise them?" I asked. "Our quiet agreement with Earth. Energy for obedience. What did you price into the obedience?" "Stability," she said. "No more riots on ration day. No more power divorces when a city chooses light over water. No more children doing homework by hazard glow. You know the cost of chaos." "And the cost of control?" I asked. "A few choices in the hands least qualified to make them," she said, still gentle. "A fair trade." "Least qualified," Jake repeated. He didn't smile. He adjusted our angle to spare us a drag from the ring's venting. Outside the port, the bruise-colored planet turned like a slow argument. Another window popped. The station's public channel. My face from 5 minutes ago, the brief, unwise kiss recorded by a pod camera that should have been off. The station net had flagged it. Breach. Intimacy. The clip played in a loop with a parchment-colored banner. Envoy conduct review. Comment feeds opened like mouths. Words stacked. Shame, traitor, romantic, liar, freak, brave. "They're using it," Jake said. "Of course," the curator answered. Confession accelerates compliance. The public hungers for two things: a fall and a pardon. I can give them both. She held up something that wasn't a weapon, but behaved like one. A contract tablet with my name in soft, forgiving script. The clause headings glowed like warmed honey. Non-prosecution, rehabilitation, privacy restoration. A little stipend to make the future taste safe. Come back, she said. And this is the only version of this story that will survive the morning. You will be forgiven. The human will be handled without spectacle. Handled, Jake said, as if tasting a bruise to see if it would flower. Quietly, she said. I looked at the second window, the comments multiplying, the way the station turned into a choir when fed a beat. Somewhere, vending spheres chirped their coffee songs. Somewhere, a kid in a borrowed room scrolled with bright, fearful eyes. Lark. She wanted a window. I wanted a world where windows weren't luxuries sold to children. Give me ship to station public, I told Jake. He blinked once. Not no. A check. Are you certain? Yes, I said, because certainty is often just refusing a better lie. He slid the fader. The console pinged. The red live bloomed like a wound. People of Sigma 7, I said, careful with the edges. I am Lena, listed as envoy. My first language is orders. I am learning another. I was sent to test the obedience you give for power. I found a man who knows how to hold a live wire without burning a house down. I found out my curfew was inside my body. I cut it out. I am not asking you to love me. I am asking you to ask what your obedience buys and who gets the change. The comment swell stumbled, then split. Threats, cheers, memes already. Someone looped Jake's hand, finding mine, and replaced the background with fireworks. Someone else posted a diagram of a curfew implant with red circles and the words, "Do not." Cute, the curator said. Enough. She flicked her fingers. The med hole shivered. Our ship's exterior lights died. The console browned. A tether lock somewhere on the ring clenched, eager to hold. My body counted exits without caring that there were none. She has control of the ring's auxiliaries, I said. She can pull us back without touching us. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe she only wants us to believe she can. He killed our cabin lights. The universe poured in. He rerouted juice from everything that wasn't flight into everything that was. He slid a flaking panel aside and hot-wired the med bed into the starboard thruster. The bed groaned, then sang. Improvised. Human. Gorgeous. She'll take Lark, he said suddenly, like the thought had sprinted from his chest to his mouth. If she can't get to you, she'll come sideways. She'll take my kid. She'll make it a rule. A third window snapped into being. Series Social Services. A casework queue. It shouldn't have been reachable from here. The curator's voice softened to a lullaby. Guardianship reviews are often triggered by instability events. Doc rats who abduct envoys create instability. This is not personal, just Jake. It is the math of order. Stop, I said, and surprise cracked her tone. I had never told her that word. Not the threat. The lie that this is math. Math explains. It doesn't excuse. Language, she said, as if we were in a lesson again. Yes, I said. Let me teach you one. No. I hit transmit before my fear remembered my fingers. I dumped the bits we weren't supposed to have. Sections of the Envoy Compact, the enforcement guidelines that turned love into a line item, the signed collateral notes, Earth cities pledging their own citizens as leverage against brownouts. Not all of it. Enough. Always reveal only what changes the room. The comment flood became a current you could drown in. Someone overlaid my curator's contract with the collateral note for a town I had never seen. The fonts matched like a confession. Lives equaled kilowatts on the tidy table. Someone screamed in caps. Someone cried in lowercase. Someone sent a picture of candles and wrote, "We can choose dark and still be people." My curator stopped smiling. "Lena," she said, and for the first time she used only my name. "No dear. No daughter. Return. You do not understand the cost of your romance." "She does," Jake said, quiet. "We do. We're paying now." Alarms ribboned the air. Patrol pips converged. 3, then 5, then more, like rain deciding to be a storm. The tether lock clamped again. The ship bucked. The bruised planet swung. I felt the choice arrive, not as a thought, but as a weight in the hand. "Walk or kneel," the curator said. Jake looked at me like he had at the maintenance rail. No speech, just a held space. His palm was open on the lever, the only kind of offer that matters. "Walk," I said. He rolled the grav. The field hiccuped in a way that looked like clumsiness and was actually courage. The first line of patrol craft wobbled a degree. Teal suits grabbed for rails with beautifully trained hands. I stepped into the camera's eye, showed my face to the ring, to the planet, to the child who wanted a window. "I choose him," I said. I didn't mean a romance. I meant a human. "I choose you," I added, to the station, to the algae techs, to the aunt on Ceres. "I choose all the small, correct actions that make power unnecessary." "Noted," my curator said, voice flat. She reached for an old lever. "Delete." The contract window shattered. The teal squads lost their faces behind mirrored shields. That's what deletion looks like when it doesn't have your skin to crawl into. It eats names first. "Ready?" Jake asked me, as if we were about to lift a heavy sofa together. "Ready," I said, and reached for his hand. We burned. Not a clean arc. A ragged lurch powered by a repurposed medbed, and a lie turned into a map. The tether screamed and coughed metal. The shuttle kicked free. Stars swung wide. Orders and seals fell behind. Ahead was the unknown we would face together. His choice became our freedom. Mine made it public.